We eat in the cloakroom, whether the House of Representatives is there or not. And we do it because, quite frankly, they're our friends. They're our colleagues. And right now, they are the only thing standing between the United States becoming Europe. And it's because of them that this administration has not been able to accomplish everything they want to. Now, I'd love to get up here and start with a stack of stuff and tell you everything the United States Senate has done in the last year. One problem: we've done zero. We've done zero. Let me give you some examples. Oh, we did pass a bill a couple weeks ago about insider trading. I voted against it. Tom Coburn voted against it. Jeff Bingaman voted against it. He's a Democrat. Why? Because the current law says that Americans cannot insider trade. And the head of the Security Exchange Commission, before this bill ever emerged, said all laws apply to all Americans, including members of Congress, their staff, and members of the executive branch. But instead, we spent a week where we could have been talking about the economy and jobs and what we could do to turn this economy around and put people back to work. We spent that week debating insider trading because Congress's favorability numbers are at 9%, and those members who look at this as a career and not as an opportunity to serve want to do everything they can to change their image in front of the American people. Let me just be honest with you and candid. I'm not there for image. I'm there for impact. I want to make sure the things that are broken are fixed. And I got to tell you that this is not going to be an easy election. There might have been a point in time where we thought, boy, this is going to be easy to change the White House. It's going to be hard. And it makes me wonder why we're all here tonight. I mean, why, night after night, or some of us at dinners like this, why do you come out? Why, when the chairman calls you, do you respond and say yes, sponsor tables, bring items to be auctioned, bake cakes? Well, I think about the two names that are on this dinner tonight, Lincoln and Reagan. Think about Abraham Lincoln for a minute. The only president to serve when Civil War happened in the United States. A tremendous opportunity that he had from his vantage point. Immediately on the end of that conflict to be punitive. Where some Americans saw two armies, Lincoln never lost perspective that it was about one nation. As a matter of fact, if you read the speeches that Lincoln gave shortly after the Civil War, in every speech he talked about one nation. Because he knew his job as President of the United States was to bring a country that was torn, the fabric was torn, and to bring it back together as one. And who can forget Ronald Reagan? The man that woke up every day and all he saw was hope. He had big dreams for America because this was the greatest country in the world. And his euphoria was contagious regardless of what party affiliation you came from. You see, in both cases, Lincoln and Reagan, they both believed that the best days of America were in front of us, not behind us. The challenging thing is I can tell you what this election cycle is going to be about right now. It's one word. It's fairness. Fairness. Go back and listen to any of the speeches that President Obama's given over the last 3 weeks. Once every 3 sentences you will hear the word fairness. Well, you know, I don't think it's fair to steal our children's money. That's what he's doing. As he proposes all of these programs under the guideline of fairness, he's taken a generation and making sure that they won't have the opportunity to succeed. Dale alluded to a Medicare bill that Tom Coburn and I walked out and introduced last week. Truthfully, the Republican leaders in Washington would have preferred us not to do that. And Tom and I stood up and said the reason that we're here to do this is we feel like we have the moral obligation to save Medicare for our parents and our children. I challenge you, just look at all the reports that are out there, not that Congress does, that President Obama's administration has done. Part A trust fund of Medicare goes bankrupt in 2016. That is 4 years from right now. 2016, the hospitalization trust fund of Medicare has zero money in it. This is not a question of whether we can do something for the political smarts. This is a question of whether we're going to look seniors and children in the face and say, we're going to save this. We're not going to let it die. Well, that's the reason that we did it. And as we move through this period of promises, because I think that's what you're going to hear from President Obama, especially when he's in North Carolina. Just understand, what he wants to do is give everybody something. He wants to give everybody some degree of success. Let me challenge you. Success is something you can only earn. We know it in America because that's foundational here. Western Europe, success is something that they sort of hand out and they shift around. And that's why we're the economic gorilla in the room when we compete. Americans know that through hard work, you're rewarded. We've never believed that successful people should be punished. Now, why are we here tonight? I think it's because you want the America back that you love so dearly. You know, Ronald Reagan said this is the greatest country in the world. He's right. And some of you might think when you hear that phrase that we're the largest economy in the world and that's what makes us great. Or we're the largest military in the world and that's what makes us great. I would tell you they're both accurate, but I prefer the definition that de Tocqueville had. De Tocqueville came to the United States and spent time, and before he went back across the ocean, he described it this way. America's greatness is in the capacity of the American people to give of their time and their resources to impact positively the lives of people they might never meet. In his description of the greatness of America, his definition, he never talked about a federal government. It's not strange why. People still believed then that the federal government was a small entity, that it wasn't intrusive in everything. It didn't have tentacles that reached into every facet of what we do in life. That if there needed to be that type of regulation, it would be done at the state level, where it's closer to the American people. And the truth is, the thing that we have most at risk is the greatness that de Tocqueville defined. If in fact we let the federal government become a mother and a father to everybody in this country, they will brush those of us aside who are willing to reach in our pocket or volunteer our time to help somebody that's in need. Why do it? The government's going to do it. Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you, that only works as long as you've got an availability of somebody else's money. Ladies and gentlemen, we're broke. We owe $15 trillion. And let me be a prophet for a minute. January of next year, we will have a president inaugurated. I can't tell you who it's going to be. That's up to all of us. And the first action the day after they're inaugurated, regardless of whether they're Republican or Democrat, they're going to come to Congress and ask for a $3 trillion increase to the debt ceiling. They're going to ask that the debt ceiling be raised to $20.8 trillion to get by for 18 to 24 months. That's a certain. This October, we will reach that $17.8 trillion cap. And the Treasury Department will find a way to wiggle around it until after the election, and more importantly, after the first of the year. The next president has a very, very difficult thing to do that and then to turn around and set us on a course that we need to be on for the future. The only way it can be done is an overwhelming support of the American people in this election cycle. Now, many of you may not know, my dad was a Presbyterian minister, and he believed that it was important to expose his children to every type of religion. And I know there's got to be a couple of Baptists in this room. And he did take me to a Baptist summer revival. And we hit it on a Wednesday night. And you know, listen, I think Baptist preachers missed their calling. They should have been meteorologists. A year in advance, they could pick the hottest week of the summer. And we were under the tent, on the concrete, felt like a sauna. Preacher looked down and said, Dale, do you want to go to heaven when you die? And Dale said, yes, sir, preacher. He said, come up on stage. Looked down at Jason and said, Jason, do you want to go to heaven when you die? He said, yes, sir, preacher. He said, come up on stage. Looked over at the sheriff and said, Sheriff, you want to go to heaven? The sheriff said, no, sir, preacher. He said, you don't want to go to heaven when you die? He said, when I die, sure, I thought you were getting a group up to go today. If you wait until it's convenient for you to get involved, we lose. If you wait until somebody actually reaches out and asks you, we lose. If you leave here tonight and believe that now is the start of the 2012 election cycle, and it doesn't matter who you commit to work for or to give to, as long as you're involved, then it's very simple. We're going to win the next election cycle. We're going to make sure in North Carolina that we're in the majority in the House and the Senate. We're going to have the governor's mansion where we can actually fix some things that you can't do out of the General Assembly. And you know what? We're going to have a Republican in Washington, in the White House, committed to signing the bills that drastically change the direction of this country. I believe it with my heart because I believe the American people understand the moral obligation we've got. You know, I don't talk about it much, but I wear a bracelet on my arm from a troop that was killed in Iraq in 1986. 96, excuse me. It was put on my wrist by his father. I was finishing a speech and I saw this man reach down and grab something off his arm, and he reached into the crowd that I was in and he put it on my wrist. I didn't even know what it was until I got in my car. And I sat down to write that family a letter, and I really didn't know what to say to them. So I walked down the hall to John McCain's office because I knew John had a bracelet. Then I explained the story to him. I said, John, what should I say? He said, Richard, come here. He opened up his desk drawer, and there were 21 other bracelets in there. He said, the only thing you can tell them is you will wear that the rest of your life, and it will be buried in your casket with you. That's exactly what I went back to my office and I wrote to this mother and father. 3 weeks later, I'm telling this story. I'm in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I'm at a Republican event before the election. I get through and I'm going over to get on the bus. and this husband and wife walk over. She reaches on her arm, and she takes her son's bracelet off and looks at me and says, "Start your box." When you think of what I'm here to ask you to do, I want you to compare it to the sacrifices that these kids are making. Because it's for exactly the same reason. There's not a one of them that found Iraq or Afghanistan as a vacation place. Their country asked them to go because it was about the future. You know, my dad died last year. I never will forget, as he sat in the hospital one week when I came back, I had just come back from Afghanistan. He looked up at me and he said this, "I'm sorry." I said, what do you mean you're sorry? He said, "I'm sorry. I fought a war so you wouldn't have to go through this." 90 years old, and he feels like they didn't do enough. What they commit to do day in and day out, our sons and our daughters, our husbands and our wives, for this country is minuscule in comparison to what we do. What we're asked to do is minuscule in comparison to what they do. So I'm really going to plead with you tonight. I can't promise you we're going to get rid of Harry Reid because he's going to be there for 5 more years. And trust me, when you see him on TV and you get that bad feeling in your stomach, all I want you to think about is how bad does my stomach feel? Because I have to see it up and close in person. But I will assure you we will lessen the pain of a picture like that if in fact we can look at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and see a Republican in charge of this country and its future. And that will only happen if you and everybody in this country will commit today to work as hard as we can to get candidates at all levels elected. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for your passion. This is a county that we never worry about turnout. But it is a county we've got to reach out to now and ask you to be involved passionately with these candidates and for this election cycle. Thank you. God bless.